So a change of pace today. I decided this is my Rover 3500 V6 and I want to change the carburetor. This is a 600 CFM Holley on it, and it's just a bit too big. This is a 3.9 liter Land Rover motor, but originally had a 3.5 liter motor, so very similar. But it's just a bit much for this motor. I mean, it still runs pretty good, but it's not optimal. So I bought a new carburetor and I'm going to change it over. So I thought I'd take you along for the ride. I'm going to start and take off this air cleaner, and then we'll see what we need to disconnect. So the first things we're going to need to disconnect are these crankcase ventilation tubes. These come into the bottom of the air cleaner base. And then we're going to disconnect. This is the electric choke, so we'll just unplug that. Next, I'm going to take this cable off. This is the throttle connection. It should come off of here. There we go. And then it's an automatic, so it's got a kick down here. I think I'll have to wait. There's a cotter pin in the back there I won't be able to get to until I get the carburetor off, so we'll have to wait on that. And then this is the throttle return spring. That'll come off. Okay, let's go back here for now. When I swap these over with the new carburetor, I want to make sure I put them in exactly the same spots, otherwise they won't get the full motion from those. So, there's a PCV connection in the back here. That's vacuum. And then this is vacuum for the distributor. And of course the gas line has to come off. Put that over here. All just ½ inch. It has extra long studs because I have a ½ inch phenolic spacer under the carburetor for to isolate the carburetor from heat, but also to get this linkage to clear the manifold I needed a bit of extra space. So I mean, normally I would just probably have used a 1/4 inch spacer, but that wasn't quite enough room. So this bolt also holds all this brackets for the kickdown linkage and the throttle pedal. This is all stuff that came from Jags, and obviously I had to modify this for this carburetor. The original carburetor had a this line continued in and it moved the belt crank, and then there was a bottom because there was 2 side drafts on here originally. So this is from the original carburetor. Fussy, but there it is. And there you go, one carburetor removed. So I'm over here swapping parts. Put these 2 pieces on, make sure the carburetors are similar, and they are in all the ways that are important for today. You'll also want to make sure that everything's snug. So these 6 attachment bolts for the plate, make sure that all the butterfly attachment screws have been swedged. You want to get the rubber caps off of these things because it's hard to do when it's on the car, particularly that one that's under the front for this one because it's hidden so much. So you want to do all that. You want to get your orientation of your fuel inlet. So this one's only down about 10 degrees. This one's at about 45. So we'll get that. And maybe just a little more. There we go. And again, you know, snug. Don't be part of the group that thinks that the correct torque for almost anything is 1/4 turn past broken. God, I'm so tired of going behind and fixing those messes people make doing that. But I digress. You want to make sure that all the bits are opening, closing, that the choke is working. We're going to have to set the fuel level and everything after the carburetor's on the car. All this stuff. This is pretty easy to change when we're right here. And just looking, this is at about 45, but my old one was at about 22 because I straightened it out a bit. So let's see if we can't take care of that too. More. It doesn't have to be perfect, but it wants to be close. That's because this is the connection for the kickdown, and it connects from over here, so you want to have a straight pull on that. That's basically what it boils down to. And I think we're ready to go put this on the car. So I cleaned up all the gasket surfaces, new gaskets, phenolic spacer back in. I did connect the kickdown cable already while I had the carburetor off. Just generally looking around, so I'm ready to bolt it down now, and then we'll make the rest of the connections. Just nothing very exciting. These 4 1/2-inch nuts. Good idea. So I'm getting all these snug just a little bit, and then we'll tighten them down. I'm going to make sure anytime you're doing anything like this, you don't just tighten one bolt down at full torque, because otherwise it's really easy to warp the aluminum plates. And that's snug. And that's tight. I'll probably drive it a little bit, then I'll come around and double check these, because with the aluminum and the paper gaskets, it's really easy for the paper gasket, because the aluminum will cycle with the heat bigger and smaller. So with the paper gaskets, they can crush in a bit, so you just go back after, I don't know, a couple of days, 100 miles or so. And you probably should really torque them when they're cold. So this is the throttle linkage. That's back on. This is the distributor vacuum. That's back on. I already did this. This is vacuum for the heater matrix. And this is my PCV system. Goes back on this larger port there. And somewhere there's a fill line here. That on. And no. My screwdriver's over somewhere else. I'll go get that in a minute. So that's the throttle linkage. The kickdown linkage is done. Gas line I need to tighten out. Vacuum advance, and then vacuum for the heater, PCV. And I think that's all of it for now. So we need to adjust the float height. So you need to take this brass plug, it's right there, and then this is the float adjustment. So this is the lock nut. I'm using that, and then there we go. So this car has an electric fuel pump, so it's going to go turn the ignition on and let the carburetor fill up. And that's the fuel just barely running out. You probably can't see that on the camera, but that is indeed what it is. And it's definitely easier with an electric fuel pump, there is no doubt. Let's make sure this is tight. Again, snug. not reefed down. It's all brass and aluminum. It's awful easy to break stuff. Accelerator pump's working. Well, I guess we'll go see if it still works. Well, the camera shut off there for a minute. Don't know quite when it did, but it did start, and it definitely needs to be adjusted. So it's past my lunchtime, so I'm going for lunch. But I'm going to need to set the idle adjustment, the mixture 2 screws, and then get it fully warmed up and see how the jetting is and all that. So we'll see how that goes later. If not, don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll see you on another project.